for joining me here for my happy hour, Just on Tap happy hour edition. So great to see you, man. And what's a happy hour without having drinks?
Oh,
You know,
which is amazing.
yeah. So I think just to celebrate this this lifetime thing that's happening for me, I want to say I'm just so appreciative of you being here, and we have to celebrate with a toast.
That's right. I am all in. I mean, this is certainly a celebration of all our creative juices, all our heart coming together. So I'm
yes.
excited. Let's toast.
For sure, for sure. What do you got?
What
What do you got? What you gonna drink?
think-
Let's see what you're gonna work
I
with.
think I'm gonna do this one. Okay. So
Okay. Yes. Yes.
we
yes.
got a little
same.
taste.
We got a little actual sunshine
I
here, a little
know.
rise and glow.
Yes.
By Ken Euphorics. This is good. Let's go for it.
So we've got our mocktails, but at home people can do what they need, even
Right.
tea or coffee.
Exactly. Whatever gets
Whatever
you
gets
right.
you going on a happy hour.
Oh yeah.
All right. Listen,
That's
already
good.
it looks good. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I
This
feel
looks
like I'm on the
yummy.
beach.
Oh, let me. Yeah, exactly. Is that what you
Well, salud to
said?
you.
Salud. Salud.
All right.
Oh, that got a nice little
Yes.
little kick, little peppery.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
It's a good one.
Love it.
Oh man. So, I just want to start by just saying, it's amazing that what's happening in today's climate, just the world's just going a little bonkers, man.
Ooh,
right?
you got that right.
Right.
Understatement of the
It's just
month.
right? It's really going crazy, but. Folks who have their boots on the ground still doing the work, it's just so important for us to continue to grow that. So, just for all my folks that's listening, I have the amazing Guisela Marroquin here in the office here. Well, not office. This is
Ooh.
actually my little studio here.
Yes. We're remote, so we just go and make our space wherever we can.
Absolutely. And she is the executive director at Pretrial Justice
Thank you.
Institute. And she's just a beautiful human being, beautiful spirit. But, I'll let her tell you all the works that she's been doing. And actually, Guisela, tell the people why you do this work and what really made you get into it.
Yeah. So I actually grew up in this neighborhood that we're in today. Westchester County is a little north of New York City, but everybody says it's upstate. Everything upstate. I came from Guatemala with my family, and we came to this area, and I've stayed ever since. I've worked here, I've lived here, I've played here, right? So really just found myself many times in a role of an advocate, sort of navigating different systems. So that's, I think, the seeds of what led me to do social justice work, certainly service work. So that was the beginning of it. And, somewhere in between the different jobs I had, I met a lot of young people who were beginning to think about how to really assert their voice through advocacy. And I give them a lot of credit for teaching me how to be bold and pursue that piece in legislative offices. They took me up to Albany, and we did all that, and I got the fever to continue that kind of work.
Right.
So I ended up doing work with the New York Civil Liberties Union, locally and on a statewide level. And then because I also have this educator at heart kind of thing, I was supposed to go into early childhood and teach little ones. And that was a pivot in my career. But there was an interest always that if whatever I learn, whatever I have access to share it back. So I started training other organizers about legislative advocacy and found my way into different areas of the nonprofit world, philanthropy as an adjacent world.
Yes.
And as I was in philanthropy, I met folks who were at the Pretrial Justice Institute.
Yes.
I was invited to be on the board. And as I was serving on the board, there was a huge transition the organization was going through.
Yes.
And it was really centered around racial equity.
Wow.
And how to make this organization that was almost 50 years old really adhere and align to that. Because the mission was, we're dealing with disparities and things that are not really right in the system.
Right.
And those who are inside or who are affected by these systems are folks of color. So there was a whole new journey happening for the organization.
Right.
And I took on the opportunity to become the ED. And here I am, really in the crux of a lot of different changes in the criminal justice space, but really happy to be centered on the pretrial end and be able to share why that's important, which felt really relevant in my life experience and in my professional experience as well.
Right. No, definitely. You definitely wear a lot of hats. And I know that firsthand. And I love the fact that you came in to bring in some new blood and a different way of doing things as well. And it's an advantage to have you in an organization because you get the different forms of like just diversity and what's needed in a space, because if you say you was in philanthropy, we know we know how that can be. And I think a lot of folks don't talk about those parts that aren't so nice, especially when you're trying to get money or you're trying to get folks to support you. And I know the folks who are in your organization appreciate the change, but was it always pleasant?
Yeah, I think that we have to be real about those journeys that a lot of organizations took on. When DEI became the buzz, a lot of folks got funding, and there was a lot of buying into making those changes. And while I was in my philanthropic role, I would hear a lot of folks being like, well, now I was hired because I'm a person of color to lead this organization. But then the transition has been really hard and heavy on me because now I'm expected to change a history that has been, not even thinking closely about that piece. And so it comes with a big responsibility. And I think one thing that I appreciate about my team is that we were real about it. Like, we want to make sure that we're going through this journey and we're being intentional and all the policies are being shifted and all the things that we do, we stand aligned with those values. But we also acknowledge that it is still a hard thing and so to that point, in this moment where funding is being pulled back, both in the criminal justice space, in the racial justice space, and when equity is now being, questioned, and we're going backwards, that is that much harder, to do the work with those values. We're not funded. We're overlooked for all of the ways in which we show up, not understood of how, comprehensive an ecosystem of change is. It hurts us both on an emotional level, on an intellectual level.
Right. And give a shout out to the PJI team because a small it's a small but mighty team, and I just want to give them all a shout out. Also, for the folks who don't know about PJI, just give them a little background about it and what do you guys do?
So it's hard to put it in like 3 to 5 words, right? But the way I think about it is, the terms we use: we inform, we inspire, and we mobilize. On the inform side, it's really about thinking through both research, also elevating a lived experience from folks that are coming in and out of the system. We think about that piece of racial equity and how it intersects with criminal justice. And on the inspire side is really us finding collaborators, the right voices to be spearheading things that need to be changed. And the mobilization part is other stakeholders need to come along. And as well,
you need to join.
We do, anywhere between like technical assistance to strategic thinking, with different institutions, both court systems and nonprofits and other advocate organizations. So we do a lot of that piece. And I think the other element that has come into our work in the Inspire scheme of things is narrative shift. How do we change,
so important,
what is out in the media, that those little sound bites, how do we move differently and instead of just defensively? So that is actually one of the things our organization fills a gap in many organizations. They are doing the work, the boots on the ground, doing a lot of the things every day, and they may not have a comms department. But we can support by doing an op-ed or making sure that that particular message is getting out, or complementing a coalition, finding coalition partners, bringing folks together, and ensuring that we are throwing out a counter narrative of what the reality of things are.
Right,
So yeah.
right. I know recently I read something that you all were working on like willful flight projects.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could recall, and you could always, bring it to my recollection, you worked on work in Boston and
Yeah.
also some work in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
How did the willful flight thing, how did that come
Yeah.
about?
So yeah, that's one of the things I think that even before we get into a project is also about language and all
Very
these
true.
technical terms that exist within a
Right.
pretrial legal system,
That's right.
right? Folks don't know. So willful
Right.
flight really refers to a practice that we wanted to institute to think differently about folks who don't show up to court or reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, many systems just jump to a criminalization of why somebody doesn't, they want to run, right?
That's right.
That's the thing.
First
That's
and
assumed,
foremost, right.
like that's it.
Right.
And you and I know in our communities the things that get, present themselves, childcare, just caregiving, period. You have to think, well, if I lose my job or show up to
Employment,
court, like
so
what?
much.
I'd rather pay the fine than lose the
Right.
day of work.
Exactly.
All of those reasons. So we were finding partners that were reaching out to us and saying, we're a court system. We think we should shift some things. We see the disparities of folks being engaged in the system repeatedly for these types of crimes. How can we change? So we did have a pilot that was funded through government funding for that. We were in Boston, and it took a lot of groundwork, building trust, ensuring that community was going to be a part of that change.
Right.
Because most of the time, courts don't work with the community.
Right. That's a problem.
And so, yeah, so
Right.
we did a lot of groundwork there. And, it's really disappointing that funding gets pulled back. We're the first ones to go on assumptions of not understanding what the particulars of that kind of project are. So, yes, we were in Boston, in Las Vegas. We've had conversations with other folks in different areas. Now that everybody's sort of like, look, this is an emergency, everything is urgent, and we've lost funding everywhere, we see a lot of discussions around willful flight. We need different ways to think about how people can show up to court, and they want to most of the time. Research has been done. We have university partners who've done the research and who can share that is there are other reasons why people don't show up. So there's examples of other institutions that have implemented, reminders,
Right.
a phone call, right? Is this still a good time for you to come? Like, is it going to interfere with your schedule? Those kinds of things. And we see a change and folks really wanting to do it.
They do
So
wanna do it, yes.
there's a willingness. And another element that was going to come into that pilot project was that then we would do court watching and gather data. Right. So many
Data's
court
so important,
systems,
right?
Data.
Yes, yeah.
Many court systems don't collect data in ways that we can pinpoint all the disparities and the ways in which once something is implemented, that it is effective.
That's right.
Right.
That's
So
right.
those are the things that we're losing. We didn't just lose funding, we're losing that data. We're losing that history of how effective. And so those sound bites that say, oh, there's an increase in crime, get more airtime because there's not the data to back it up, or at least not consistent enough.
Right. No, that's so true. And when stuff like that happen, how do you inform the folks who were on board with this project that put the time in? Because community members were so invested in this. And for folks who want to go into this work, it's not an easy one, right? Folks do build that trust. You get your hopes up, like, oh, this is going to change. You get a little glimmer, and something like this happens. How do you inform the community that wanted to be a part of this and was so hopeful for the change?
That building of trust, is about also showing up. Sometimes when there's partnerships that want to be established, folks just go into the area, do the projects that were funded, and they were like, well, we'll give you a little bit of money to collaborate, and then they're out. Right? And that was something that we intentionally said we didn't want to do. That even if we didn't know if we were going to stay there the whole time for 3 years of our project, we wanted to build relationships that would outlast that project.
That's right.
So part of it was being transparent from the beginning. When there was pushback around something, we communicated that with community, right? Hey, we're having, some pushback in the court system. They want to know this, and getting feedback from them to be like, well, tell them this, right?
Exactly.
And we live here, and we'll let you know. And so that was, really great in establishing trust that would be long lasting. So by the time we actually got the news that that the funding had been pulled and we had to pause the project entirely, folks were like, we knew that could happen, you know, but
Right.
because you guys were in the area, we started thinking about other ways to collaborate with each other, and we only got each other, right?
Right.
And you continue to build those
Right. You don't
relationships
lose that.
outside of
Right.
that. So I think we've gained a lot of new friends and allies in that area,
Right. Right.
who we can tap into. And if we can, we support whatever work they're doing. We're amplifying work they're doing around housing for folks with a lived experience, work around mobilizing their community of folks who've been incarcerated and don't know they can vote, right? Yeah,
Combat
so
that,
it
sure.
becomes a different type of relationship. I mean, not a project, but actually just I'm your ally and friend,
100%.
right? Yeah.
And it's so important. I feel like anytime you get involved in anything, being authentic
Yes.
and just transparency in the very beginning is so important. I know that for me, just from personal experience, I know I'm not getting on board. If you are not, listen, just give it to me straight, give it to me raw,
yes.
and let's see how we can do it. I don't want any pop-up
Yeah.
surprises. And I really want to just make sure that you are really in it for the right reasons.
Right.
Because too many times, folks who are system impacted, they are used as tokens so many times.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you doing with the people? You know,
Yes.
and I think it's a very special place that PJI have what they have done with folks with lived experience and the work that they're doing.
Yeah. It's certainly a learning I had through the different roles I've had in the nonprofit space, that
Yes.
there were times I worked for an institution that was really well resourced, right?
Right.
ACLU of New York, right? Like that's
Right.
a big organization. And I had to be like transparent in community that I was the first organizer statewide.
Right.
Right. So it's like, this is a new thing they're trying.
Right.
We don't even have funding for that, whatever that entails. But I can show up and be in solidarity, observe, bring
right.
back information, educate that institution about how to be authentically engaged with community. And, it'll take time.
Right.
And
It
just be
does.
transparent about that. And I think, it was such a key thing to also go to different counties in New York State
Oh yeah.
that all look different.
Right? So
So Westchester looks very different.
Oh,
Rockland
wow.
County
Oh,
looks different than Orange
yes.
County. And so it was, how do you navigate all these spaces as a person representing one institution? So I had to really put that first as an intention. Be
Yes.
authentic, be transparent. The organization will come later because they don't understand the community yet, but you can build that authentic relationship with
Right.
community members. So that was, something that I carried through since then. And, with PJI, we have a commitment to local engagement. We know the folks at the local level, those with the experience, are going to be the experts.
Right.
And if we can come and complement their work, that's what we're doing. And in a compliment, you have to be transparent.
True.
What can we do? What can we not? And
So true.
and
And you can't do it all
it's
too.
important.
I think that's the thing with a
Right.
lot of organizations. Like, you try to check off all the boxes, and the reality is, if you really do just like one thing really, really
Yeah.
good, you will survive and you'll
Yeah.
be great, and people will support you.
Right.
You don't have to do it all.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that folks.
Well, that's what
do believe that.
the nonprofit industrial complex
100%.
does, right? It's like, you're a
Right.
business, you have to do this, and
Oh,
you have
yeah.
to prove this, and that's what
That is.
philanthropy has done to the movement work.
Right, right.
Isolated us and said, we're going to fund this organization over this, and this competition hasn't
So
helped,
crazy,
right?
yes.
And yeah, so it's, when it comes to movement work, people do think, hey, I'd rather actually stay away from the philanthropy space. Like, how do we do
Right.
mutual aid and other ways to
Right,
support each
right,
other? Because
right.
I don't want to be divided. I want to work with you, or I see the value. But that whole ecosystem is not seen on a macro level,
Very
right?
true.
Organizations and proposals to foundations are done one-on-one, and we're kept separate.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I want to ask you too?
Yeah.
Which has been on my mind. I mean, on everybody's mind. What's up with this no cash bail stuff that's happening? What is going on with the people?
The new hashtag.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are we doing with this? I mean,
So
what's
listen, bail reform has been a thing for many years. And, we have partnered with different organizations who are just elevating, long, like we dug into the files and we're like, oh, here we go. We'll throw another video again about what it is, right?
right?
But essentially, it's how do we ensure that people are getting the support they need when they interact with the criminal legal, right?
Right.
Incarceration putting them in a container in a cell is not going to be the answer.
Correct.
We have plenty of research over years that's the case, right? Now, this no cash bail is a buzzword, a new hashtag that says, oh, if like somebody commits a crime, they get arrested, they just release them. That's not the case, right?
It's not the case at all.
Yeah,
Right.
Those with the gavel, they will not go for that,
Right.
right? It's specific set of crimes that are considered, they're quote unquote crimes because they've been activities and behaviors that have been criminalized that we know have been disparate for many years, intentionally disparate. So that's one clarification. So folks who can stay home, get the support, have a mental illness, they don't need to be incarcerated.
Right.
They do not need to be detained. And they could be better and actually come back to court and have, someone help and in that process and finish out their court process without incarceration. That many places thought about that before, instituted some practices, educated their whole court system, judges, right? And saw a difference.
Right.
Saw a difference in repeat offenders because it was like for every little thing, somebody would get rearrested, right?
Right.
And so this was better. They were now in a community that was supporting them. They were closer to home. Their families weren't, thrown off into chaos. It was just, it's better, and the numbers show it.
Right.
So this idea that crime is up is not accurate. Right. And one thing I'll say that even before folks, get arrested is if you have more police officers in a neighborhood, you're going to find more crime.
Right.
Right? And the next neighborhood over who doesn't have all those cops will not have those numbers of crime because there's no one there.
That's exactly.
Right?
Correct.
So it's just a game of numbers if we're talking data, right? And so that's, I think what we're seeing this hashtag is like, oh, well, the numbers are going up and we see more, folks, houseless folks on the streets and they're going to commit crime and drugs and this.
The narrative
if you're
is
just
crazy
recording, if you're just standing in that corner, that's what you're going to see.
Oh, it's so
Let's
true.
go to a different neighborhood, right? And so we really are coming back to share, it's the cash bail system has really been just this idea that if you pay for it, then you can get out. So it becomes whoever has the money to get out can be out and free and waiting for their process, and those who can't are incarcerated and experience more harm being incarcerated and detained.
Just criminalizing more poor folks and those without money, as usual, always get the lack of a better term, shorter end of the stick. I want to use something else, but I'll keep it PG. But it's just the way it is. If you don't have the money, I can think back to when I was in law enforcement. And at the time, well, they're trying to bring all this stuff back. They probably got it right now, the quality of life offenses, right? Just trying to keep the narrative, keeping the neighborhood safe. I never felt like the unhoused guy that was on the bench was causing havoc. Maybe it didn't look aesthetically pleasing to folks.
Right.
Because she's on the bench, right? It's this kind of thing. But the guy is actually very harmless. But to say, hey, I'm going to issue this gentleman, I'm going to call him a gentleman because he that's what he is, issue him a ticket and expect him to show up to court, expect him to pay is just... It's a tragedy within itself to do that on someone.
And traumatizing all over again,
Traumatizing all over again. It just don't make sense. It's like the person who's suffering from substance abuse and they're freaking nodding out in the corner, go give them a ticket. Why? Those kind of things is just it's not cool, and it's a system that's actually failing.
Right.
And to actually try to bring those things back, you can kind of reshape it in a different way and have community folks invest in their own community without, you don't got to be ticketing them, because those tickets turn into court dates.
Yeah.
Those court appearances that you don't make turn into, I'm going to arrest you the next time I see you, getting warrants. So it's never been a pleasant thing, and just seeing it in real time now.
To your point about it just becomes more and more of an engagement with the legal system, right?
That's it.
It's it leads into more. There's so many intersections, right? So why I really think of pretrial as being such a thing that we need to focus in is because like people miss the intersections of how people get funneled into the system
Exactly.
in all systems, right? So now we know a lot more about the child welfare system being one that leads folks into their parents being arrested for the behaviors, right? The problems, instead of getting the support they need as a family unit, separation of families, and then foster care, right? All of those things. But at this moment, what we're seeing is that any work that is not aligned with, you know, what is in executive orders and such, and the foreign administration, is going to be criminalized. I worked, you know, in gender justice, so I know that in the first Trump administration, the attack on abortion was was there, and it just becomes granular from there. It's not just abortion; it's seeking a certain kind of support and help. Right now, if you're a trans person, like, anything will be labeled and classified as a crime. And we will see that more and more of our behaviors for the people of color and communities of color will be criminalized. But it will also reach white communities. And I think that's where I would really ask that folks begin to think about these systems, and that it's not just about incarceration. There is certainly the mass incarceration part and a problem in America. Let's start by looking at that first interaction.
Right, so crucial.
And how it gets there.
So crucial.
And that is the part of why we needed racial equity to be a part of what we do.
Yes.
We could collect data. You know, there are other organizations who do pretrial like research, and they do it well, and they're partners of ours. But we think about why these disparities happen, and it all has to do with that racial inequity.
Yes.
I grew up in this neighborhood. We have many different, in a very small town, have different police departments. And so for my mom and my family, when we came here, it felt safe. I could walk to school, not have to worry, right? Like, but I also started to see the disparities that my Latino and my black like peers did have encounters with police all the time. Right? And so it wasn't fair. And those kinds of things continue to be. So again, if we're policing certain parts of the neighborhood, if we're, you know, those are the things. So for me, it was always like, we need to really just own up to the ways in which the system has been built that way. And maybe your intention is different, but we should talk about those things.
We should.
And if we need to talk about them, then it is a problem.
Right, exactly.
You know, if my experience as a person of color in this neighborhood is different, we have to talk about it. And it doesn't have to be contentious. We can pilot things together, we can partner, and that's a common ground we can find. Right. It's when this back and forth happens and the denial that something is a problem for anybody else and their experience is different. It's hurtful and traumatic.
It really, really is. And I just feel like people, we always go by the NIMBY thing, right? Not in my own backyard. If it's not affecting folks in that way, they just generally don't care.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part about it. I mean, we could watch things on social media all the time. We could spend hours on TikTok if you want to, or Instagram, and see these different things. But some folks will be like, you know what, that doesn't affect me. I don't care. I'm going to my beach house and driving my Lamborghini and go play polo. It's just your experiences, right? I always want to point the finger at folks and blame them for the way that they're thinking. But it does matter, experience. I think once folks can have that shared experience, they'll be like, oh, I get it now. I get it now. So,
because when we're in relationship, we can hear the other person's story, and then our empathy plays. If we just rely on data, if we just rely on what somebody else is telling you in a book, in a story, it's too late.
Sure. No, 100%.
Right? You're not going to be engaged. And so for me, it's how do we get people to be interested without being like, oh, that's a sad story, I'll move on.
Right.
Like, actually say, what does this person have to contribute that is being limited by these things? Right? Because they're my neighbor, or there's somebody who knows somebody that I know. We are all connected 6 degrees of separation, and we should see ourselves that way.
Absolutely. Man, thank you so much for being here today with me. And tell folks, if they want to get involved and they want to be a part of this movement, how can they get in touch with you or be a part of the organization?
First, go to pretrial.org. You can find all our profiles there. We have resources. We have a library, materials that folks can ask for and we can share. Start following us. We share articles and what our partners are doing nationally. And we want to hear from folks. We want other folks to be ambassadors of that partnership on a local level. To your point, we can't do it all, right? We're a small and mighty team. We can't be in every place in the nation. So if we can start locally, how do we build those partnerships? You know, invite us into your classrooms, into your spaces that we can continue to build together.
That's so amazing. Listen, everyone, if you want more of this type of conversation, please join us at Justice on Tap. You can find us at pretrial.org. And don't forget to tap in and remember to subscribe and to share with all your friends.
So
thank you.
Cheers. Again.
Salud, salud, salud.
And thank you for making this space for us.
You're so welcome.